Hey, everything's been really great so far. Macy, my oldest, graduated from Purdue a couple of weeks ago, so I'm extremely proud of her and happy to have her home. She has gotten a full-time job with benefits here locally, and
Wow.
so she's gonna live with me for the short term and save a little bit of money. And then Katie is home for her holiday break. So I love having both my girls at home. So yeah.
Nice.
And being a superintendent, it's just different than it being a teacher or a building principal, because as a teacher and principal, I had all of the same days off as the teachers and students.
Mhm.
So now having a 12-month contract, I get, typical holidays off and then get 20 vacation days to take when I choose. Last year at this time, I took those vacation days, but we are transitioning to a new payroll system starting January 1. So I just felt like I needed to be in and make sure that we have everything ready to go for that.
Gotcha. Gotcha. Well, that's what being a good leader is all about, right?
I think so, yeah.
Very good. Well, tell us, Mrs. Vogt. When did your kids go on break? What was the end of the semester schedule like there in Bement?
Yeah, we had finals last Thursday and Friday, and what we do is the high school students are done with their day at 2 o'clock, and we have some high school students who need to ride the bus home, and so we have all of our district dismiss at 2 o'clock on those high school final days,
Hmm.
so that the high schoolers don't need to stand around waiting for the buses. So the whole district benefits from high school finals by getting out an hour early. And then that helps the teachers, because then, of course, the teachers still need to do their grading and get everything ready for a report card. So, it's the students are leaving early, but then the teachers stay and they get that work done so that we can be ready to send report cards out.
Very good. So semester has concluded there in Bement, and anything going on here in the 2 weeks that students are not in those buildings?
We still have a lot of practices going on. There are some high school basketball games that have been scheduled. And then for the building itself, it's just a constant keeping an eye on the facility and any projects that can be done.
Hmm.
And so the maintenance team and I meet regularly to talk about what's coming up. Some of those bigger items that we always plan for in the summer, we do take a look and see if there are things that could be done over Christmas break. So we've actually just had somebody come in and install new door handles and locks for all of our elementary classrooms. So now, if people aren't familiar with the Bement district, we have our elementary, middle, and high school are all under one roof. And the middle school and high school have been on the same master key. Now our elementary school is on that same master key. And so, it's one of those safety underlying for me. It's the safety aspect. If there were ever an incident, I don't have to get 5 different sets of keys to first responders.
Hmm.
There's one master key for the building. So that's a pretty big project that has been done. And then we have our small gym ceiling that had some damage almost a year ago. That project is done, but like the stage in there had gotten pretty filthy even after they mopped it up. So the guys are scrubbing and waxing that and bringing it back to life, and just some general cleanup.
Gotcha. Very good. So, a couple of weeks with students out of the buildings, and of course the holiday break upon us, and then we get into second semester, Mrs. Vogt. And I know for students and teachers, there obviously it's a new semester, so there's curriculum things to go through and all of that. But I venture a guess from your chair, second semester rolls around, and you're already thinking about maybe end of the school year, the summer, and maybe even next school year. What are you thinking about here these days?
Absolutely. In fact, most people are aware that the Cerro Gordo and Bement school districts co-op sports. What they might not be aware of is that we also share some teachers. My industrial tech teacher starts his day in Cerro Gordo. Their ag teacher starts her day here in Bement, so that we can offer those classes for our students. So one of the things that we really need to do is make sure that our school calendars match up. And so Dr. Widener and I met earlier this week so that we could start that process of outlining a calendar for next school year. And then what I'll do, I have a calendar committee. I'll present the options to them, get their feedback so that we can get the academic calendar set. We already have homecoming set for both districts for next year. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. Second semester rolls around. We've got, the budget is done, the levy is done.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we'll need to amend the budget, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we just start looking at beginning the cycle again.
I know you and Dr. Widener go back to your days at Monticello, and I've worked side by side with friends, over the years doing things. I can't imagine that's like you set out just 45 minutes to, go over these things. Like you probably need 2 or 3 hours with Dr. Widener,
Yes.
right?
Yes. And we purposely planned it on Monday. The high school girls basketball team was playing at Cerro Gordo, so I went over to Cerro Gordo to meet with her in her office. So then we could go over and watch the basketball game. And that's something I just truly appreciate. I'm not sure there's another pair of superintendents in the state who have had so many years working together in a previous district to then be able to work side by side in each of our own districts and just present that united front that we're in this together. We're in it for our students. We're in it for our communities. And, we're very fortunate that we've had the opportunity to start working together again.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Well, as you think about the summer months there, Mrs. Vogt, are there projects coming up? Are there things that need addressed from a facilities perspective? You'll be getting dialed in on this summer.
We sure are. It's a pretty good feeling. We every year through the Regional Office of Education and the Fire Marshal, they do a health, life, safety inspection. And my first year in the district, the report from those inspections were packets, pages thick. And the maintenance team and I have worked together really hard to address some of those longstanding issues to where now, and that's where we pull quite a few of our summer projects. And now for each elementary, middle school, and high school, it's one page. And so we've really worked hard to get some of those major facility items taken care of. I'm meeting with our architect when we come back in January to work on a 5-year facility plan. That's not something that the district has had as that guideline for what's coming up next. So once he and I sit down, I've requested that we come up with a plan for tuck pointing. You can't have a building that was built in 1899 without a maintenance schedule for tuck pointing, and we don't have that right now. So
what is tuck pointing, if you don't mind me asking?
Sure. Like when you have a brick building and the mortar starts disintegrating, going in and tucking in the mortar.
That sounds tedious.
Uh-huh. Not that I know, but I mean, I've witnessed it, but I've never tried it, and I don't think I would.
Right. It's not something you're going to take up as a hobby.
No, not anytime soon. I mean, I tried to teach myself to crochet, and that was a disaster, so I can't imagine that something as tedious as tuck pointing would go well.
I'm sure they have machines for that now, right?
I really don't know.
Oh, okay. That's funny.
I don't know.
That's funny.
See the guys up on the scaffold, let them do their thing.
Hey, you know what? Kudos to those guys that they can do that. That's impressive stuff. Well, Mrs. Vogt, anything else coming up as you think about summer maintenance? You think about the next the school year ahead? Anything like that coming to mind here this morning as we chat?
Yeah, we're hoping we had a pretty substantial donation we found out about coming our way, and so that's also part of my conversation with the architect, just what we can do with that donation. So Seth, my hope is when we talk in January, I'm going to say, wow, listen to all of these things that we have scheduled in Bement, and it's exciting. It's exciting to think about the possibilities and just knowing that there are people who graduated from Bement who are still invested in the district, in the community, and want to give back. And just the honor it is to be able to take their legacy and create something for future students.
Have we talked about this already? I don't know why. This sounds vaguely familiar.
Perhaps because I think when we talked last, I had just found out, but we didn't have an idea of what we might be doing with the donation. But now we have an idea.
Okay.
So,
can you tell us about the donation just itself? Are you at liberty to speak on that today?
Yeah. So the donation is from the estate of Jeff Mills. He's a Bement graduate, and he did was not married, did not have children, and so he named our school district, one of the local churches, and then a niece and nephew as his beneficiaries. And what the rest of the family has decided is that they will add to what he specifically named in his will. And so we're working with the Bement Foundation, Michelle Gross with Bement State Bank. She and I are working together just to really make sure that that donation is used and do something great for the community.
Did you say how much, or are you at liberty to say how much?
Not yet.
Not yet. Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, I appreciate you telling us what you can, Mrs. Vogt. That's exciting.
Yeah.
I look forward to our January conversation. So,
Yes.
yeah,
yes.
very good. And I know, if I'm not mistaken, by the way, are we visiting Bement? I know coming up in January, we do our school tours. Are we visiting Bement? I am trying to remember that. We're kind of doing some housekeeping here on the air, but I'm sure folks don't mind. So, are we?
I don't think I don't know about it if you are.
All right. Well, let's see. I've got my. Nope, wrong one. Wrong calendar. Hold on, Mrs. Vogt. Here we go. All right, let's see. We are coming to Bement January 27th.
No way.
I
need to put that on my calendar.
That's what I have on my calendar here. So, and then I have us to chat. I'll tell you what, why don't we just make that our January conversation? You can make that announcement with us at the end of January if that sounds good to you.
That sounds great.
And I apologize for the housekeeping with our listeners here this morning, but I guess easier to do it now than forget about it later. So,
yeah.
Anyways, Mrs. Vogt, with that, let's you and I take a break. We'll come back and talk some more. Where do folks go to learn about all things Bement Schools?
www.bement.k12.il.us.
Very good. Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, our guest on the Zoom call today. More to come with Mrs. Vogt on the morning show. WHOW. Your friend in Central Illinois, WHOW. Once again, good morning. Thanks for being with us. I'm your host today, Seth Lawrence. The WHOW Morning Show streams to Facebook and YouTube, brought to you by Peterson Insurance, your Pekin Insurance agent in Clinton. Mrs. Mary Vogt is the superintendent of Bement Schools, my guest on the Zoom call today. And Mrs. Vogt, second semester coming up here. By the way, did you say when kids get back to school, are they one of those January 6th or something like that this year?
They are, January 6th. Our teachers come back for a Teacher Institute Day next Friday, January 3rd, and then the students on January 6th.
Very good. Can't believe it's almost here. The next week will fly by. So it was funny. I was thinking about how I like just Christmas in general, Christmas, New Year's. I lose track of what days it is, especially when like Christmas falls in the middle of the week. I wake up the next day and I'm like, wait, is it Monday? No, it's Thursday, and just get thrown off. Like I thought, like today felt like a Tuesday of all things. So, anyways, you just get thrown off, because you're taking time off, then you're back, and then you're off again, and then you're back, and so, anyways, yeah, I was thinking the other day about how like Christmas break was always like the best when we were in school, and then you get to the end of it, and you're like, wait, where did it go? You know what I mean? So, anyways, but second semester, Mrs. Vogt, anything coming up for your kids in the second semester worth looking forward to?
I feel like it's all pretty standard. Right when we get back, that Friday after we get back, we're going to do our second annual Corn Bowl. We did this last year for the first time, where the Cerro Gordo Bement boys and girls basketball teams play the Arthur Lovington Atwood Hammond teams. Last year it was hosted in Arthur. This year it will be in Cerro Gordo. So I really appreciate being part of the CGB co-op, because what we'll do is we'll support the Cerro Gordo staff and their hosting of the event.
Do you guys get to host it ever?
We won't, and part of the reason is because in the co-op, Cerro Gordo is responsible for the high school sports, and then Bement is responsible for the middle school sports.
I see.
And also because the Cerro Gordo gym holds more people.
Gotcha.
So by having three high school student bodies, we just would not be able to fit everyone in Bement.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. That makes sense. That makes sense. Yeah. Very good. Well, yeah, I know I had Dr. Widener on, and she brought in several of her students to talk about that game. And, it's funny she's got such a sports background, with her kids all in athletics and everything. And it was funny, the educator in her came out because she said, I just wasn't sure about this in the middle of a school day, but it ended up being pretty fun. So,
yes, it was. It was. And I mean, she was quite an athlete herself. We joke about that, as we're watching the basketball game earlier this week and a ball comes out of bounds, and I'm like, yeah, you're probably like, oh, hey, I'll get the balls. I'm like, oh, don't. There's not really an athletic bone in my body.
Yeah. For all the time you had spent around sports for a number of years there. So, yep, no doubt. No doubt.
I enjoy watching. I enjoy supporting my kids, but yeah, I'm not very coordinated.
That's all right.
Understand my limits.
Yep, there you go. That's what you got to do. Very good. Well, Mrs. Vogt, has your Board of Education been working on anything, or what's taken up their attention recently?
So we are we met with a representative from the Illinois Association of School Boards, and we are working on developing our district strategic plan. And so part of that is why I'm meeting with the architect to come up with that facility plan. And we're also talking with different groups so that we can get feedback on, just the direction of the district. I think our largest problem that we've talked about with the board is there is not a lot of housing available in Bement. There is not property available to build, and people move here and they stay. And so when they move here without school-age children, for example, the superintendent who just bought a house here in May, it's difficult because we want our enrollment to grow, but the enrollment can't grow if there isn't places for people to move and live.
Yeah,
and
right.
So, that's just something as a board and administrative team, and again, talking with Michelle Gross at State Bank of Bement, just trying to figure out how we can create housing for the community.
Mm-hmm. That's got to be a challenge, for a school district to get in on that conversation, because that feels like kind of a city planning, kind of thing.
Yes.
So,
yes.
Yeah.
There are a few good spots in town that are just sitting empty, but the property owners are not interested in selling. So
I see. That makes it challenging as well. For sure. Yeah. Yep. Interesting. Well, yeah, growing that enrollment. That's been a big, and for those communities that are fortunate to have that enrollment growing, that's a good problem for them to have as well. Mrs. Vogt, I got a minute left with you. Anything we haven't touched on today that's been on your mind, on your plate lately?
Seth, want to take an opportunity again. I feel like I said this quite a bit when I first started, just how much I appreciated as a superintendent. You hear it's lonely at the top, and nobody understands. And while that is true, I really appreciate having just a strong network of people, and that's something that I feel like sometimes superintendents, you only hear negative things, you hear the bad raps, but I just feel so fortunate, especially this week, getting text messages wishing Merry Christmas and whatnot from just a core group of people. Of course, Dr. Widener's part of that, Cheryl Warner, Wardensburg Latham, Ashley Francis, Sasha Young. It's just Tip Reedy over in Williamsville, Adam Ibbotson now in Maroa Forsyth,
Hmm.
just such a great group of people that I feel like our communities are very lucky to have such student-centered leaders and people who are willing to work together.
I
So,
agree. Well
uh,
said, Mrs. Vogt, and happy holidays to you and yours. Thanks for making time
thank
for
you.
us, Mrs. Mary Vogt, Superintendent of Bement Schools, our guest. Network News is now.